The sky above Earth was calm, the stars shining like scattered diamonds. But deep in space, near the outer edge of the solar system, strange blips appeared on the human sensors. Ships, dozens of them, limping and damaged, their lights flickering like dying fireflies. Commander Lyra of Earth Space Defense stared at the readings, her brow furrowed. "What are those?" she whispered. The sensor officer shook his head. "Unknown, ma'am. No registry matches. But they're moving. Fast, and they're not armed." Not yet. The alien fleet was strange. Their ships were sleek but battered, trailing smoke and debris. They were weak, broken, and clearly fleeing from something. Yet their speed was unnatural, calculated, desperate. Then a message appeared on Earth's communication arrays. It was short, almost broken, but its meaning was clear. "We need shelter, or we will die." The entire council room fell silent. Aliens asking for help was rare, almost unheard of. And they were asking humans. Dr. Hahn, the chief scientist, leaned forward. "They are weak, yes, but their technology is advanced. If we refuse, they die. But if we accept, we might be inviting danger." Admiral Torres slammed her fist on the table. "We don't negotiate with unknown aliens. They could be scouts for a fleet we can't see yet. Destroy them before they reach orbit." The room erupted into debate. Earth had faced threats before, but none like this. Destroy or protect? The decision was difficult. After hours of discussion, the council made a cautious choice. They would escort the alien fleet to safety, but carefully with armed ships ready. Commander Lyra received her orders immediately.
"Prepare a small fleet.
We guide them, we protect them. But at the first sign of hostility, we strike." Within hours, human warships rose from their bases, engines roaring, lights blazing against the dark void. The alien ships were tiny in comparison, drifting like wounded birds. Commander Lyra's flagship, the Aurora, led the escort. The aliens were silent at first. No greetings, no signals beyond their distress. Then finally a voice crackled over the comms, deep, harsh, almost melodic. "We are grateful humans. Your protection, we do not forget." Lyra nodded, keeping her eyes on the scanner. "Stay close. Don't fall behind. We don't know what's out there." The alien ships followed, swaying slightly in the zero gravity like leaves in a storm. Some looked barely capable of controlled movement, and small explosions trailed from damaged hulls. Humans adjusted their formation to shield the most damaged ships. Hours passed in tense silence. Then, out of nowhere, the scanner lit up with a new reading. A fleet larger than the aliens appeared, fast and deadly. Their ships were angular, black, and moving like shadows. "Commander, multiple contacts. Unknown fleet. They're fast." "Closing," shouted a junior officer. Lyra's hands gripped the control panels. "Enemy?" she asked, heart pounding. The officer shook his head. "Not sure, ma'am. But they're after the aliens, and they're not slowing down." The Council on Earth had not predicted this. It was supposed to be a simple escort mission. Protect the weak, keep the peace. But now the weak were being hunted and the hunters were relentless. "Shield the aliens. Full formation," Lyra commanded. The human fleet shifted, warships forming a protective circle around the alien vessels. Laser turrets hummed to life, defensive shields flickered, and warning sirens filled the ship. The alien captain's voice came over the comms, trembling slightly. They never stop. They hunt us. We cannot survive." Lyra's jaw tightened. "Then we make them survive. No one touches them while I'm here." The human ships accelerated, darting between the enemy and the aliens. The first shots were fired, brilliant blue beams cutting through the darkness. Explosions lit the void as enemy ships tried to break the human formation. But Earth's fleet was precise, coordinated, unstoppable. Even the aliens stared in awe. They had fled countless battles, countless wars. Yet humans had arrived and almost effortlessly turned the tide. Still, the enemy was clever. Ships moved like shadows, weaving through gaps, attacking where shields were weakest. A small alien scout ship was hit, its hull cracking. Lyra's fleet shot back, a streak of plasma tearing through one of the attackers. Hours of battle passed like minutes. The humans were calm, precise, unafraid. Commander Lyra knew the aliens were watching, learning. This was more than a rescue mission. It was a lesson. Finally, the enemy fleet pulled back, regrouping at the edge of sensor range. They had tested Earth's fleet, and now for the moment they were gone. The aliens floated in silence, repairs beginning immediately. Then one voice, almost a whisper, said, "Humans, you protect like gods." Lyra stared at the stars ahead, knowing this was only the beginning. The aliens were saved, for now. But the Shadow Fleet still waited. Somewhere in the dark void, a war was coming, and humans had just made themselves the most dangerous force the galaxy had ever seen. The first part of the story ended here, but in the cold silence of space, one truth was clear. Earth did not negotiate. Earth did not flee, and Earth never forgot. After the first clash in space, the alien fleet limped closer to Earth. Broken hulls floated like wounded birds, their engines weak, their crews desperate. Commander Lyra guided her fleet with steady hands, keeping a tight formation around the aliens. Every sensor beep reminded her the Shadow Fleet could return at any moment. Back on Earth, the Council met again. Images of the alien ships filled the screens. Some were missing entire wings. Others had smoke rising from their engines. The aliens themselves looked frail on the monitors, their bodies thin, their movements careful. "We can't just leave them to die," said Dr. Hahn, his voice shaking slightly. "They are alive because of us now. We have a chance to show humanity's true power and wisdom." Admiral Torres, always pragmatic, leaned back in her chair. "We can't just throw resources at them either. Every ship we send, every missile we fire, every shield we raise comes at a cost. And we don't know if more enemies are waiting for us." The Council decided humans would build a sanctuary for the aliens, a protected place where they could repair, recover, and start again. But Earth would not do it recklessly. Warships would guard the orbit, defensive shields would rise, and humans would stay ready for the Shadow Fleet's return. Commander Lyra received the orders immediately. "Prepare the construction teams and escort ships. We're making a home for the aliens, one they can't lose." For the aliens, this was astonishing. Their fleets had never been cared for like this. Their worlds had burned under enemies' attacks, their people scattered, their technology plundered. And now humans were building them a new home, in the middle of another war. The construction began immediately. Massive automated platforms lifted from Earth's orbit, lasers carving and shaping structures faster than any alien eye could follow. Humans worked day and night, their ships a blur of lights and engines. Shields hummed into life, invisible barriers forming around the emerging sanctuary. The aliens watched silently, unable to speak at first. Their own technology could not match human speed or precision. One alien engineer finally whispered over comms, "We cannot believe how fast they build." But as the humans worked, tension rose. The Shadow Fleet had not disappeared. It lingered at the edge of sensors, watching, waiting. Every day, enemy ships would appear briefly. Probes, scouting drones, and sometimes attack vessels. They tested the sanctuary, fired warning shots, but humans never faltered. Every shot was countered, every probe destroyed, every breach prevented. Commander Lyra coordinated the defense with ruthless efficiency. Her warships moved in perfect formations, shields overlapping, weapons ready. One attack came when the aliens were still adjusting to the sanctuary's size. A small enemy strike pierced the outer shield, striking a construction platform. "Damage! Damage!" shouted the engineers. Sparks flew, alarms screamed. But humans reacted instantly. Rescue drones patched the platform. Repair bots replaced the damaged sections, and within minutes, the shield was fully restored. The aliens began to understand something they had never realized. Humans did not just protect. They outthink, outbuild, and outfight. They didn't panic. They didn't retreat. They dominated every situation, turning chaos into order. Still, fear lingered. One evening, an alien envoy floated near the observation window of the sanctuary. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, and their voice trembled. "Your people, why do you fight for us? For creatures like us? Your own worlds could be threatened. You could destroy us, and it would not matter to you. But you protect us anyway." Commander Lyra did not flinch. "Because we know the galaxy is bigger than fear. And strength isn't just about weapons. It's about choice. We choose to protect. Always." Days passed, and the sanctuary grew. Massive domes rose, shielding entire sections of the alien fleet. Repair bays, refueling stations, and supply lines stretched across the orbital platforms. Human engineers moved like ants, working tirelessly while warships patrolled the edges. But danger was never far. Scouts from the Shadow Fleet returned almost nightly. They tested defenses, probing for weaknesses, sometimes daring to fire at a shielded dock. Every time humans responded, not recklessly but with precision. Their strategy was clear. Let the enemy approach, lure them into traps, strike back with unmatched coordination. The aliens began to whisper among themselves. These humans, they do not fight like others. They do not flee. They do not surrender. Even in the shadow of death, they are calm, unstoppable. The alien sanctuary floated above the planet like a shining jewel, its shields glowing against the dark void. Repair platforms hummed, construction bots moved tirelessly, and human warships patrolled the edges, silent but deadly. The aliens were still in awe. They had never seen such organization, such power, and yet fear lingered. Then the sensors screamed. Multiple enemy contacts. Incoming! A junior officer shouted. Commander Lyra's hands flew across the control panel. Show me. The enemy fleet emerged from the darkness like a wave of black steel. Their ships were massive, angular, and glinting with deadly weapons. Hundreds of vessels moved as one, a storm of destruction heading straight for the sanctuary. Form defensive perimeter. Shields up. Weapons ready. Lyra commanded. The human fleet shifted instantly. Warships moved like a living organism, surrounding the sanctuary with overlapping shields. Laser turrets hummed to life and plasma cannons glowed ominously. Humans didn't panic, they never did. The aliens watched, stunned, as humans prepared for battle with calm precision. The first shots fired. The enemy struck quickly, cutting through the void with streaks of deadly energy. One small alien ship exploded instantly, sending fragments scattering. The aliens panicked, their voices shrill over the comms. Stay behind our shields, Lyra barked. We control this fight. Human weapons unleashed fire with deadly accuracy. Beams sliced through enemy hulls, explosions lighting the darkness. Every strike was calculated, every movement intentional. The enemy had numbers, but humans had strategy. One enemy cruiser tried to break through the outer shield. Commander Lyra anticipated it, ordering 2 warships to flank and trap it. In minutes, it was surrounded. Plasma fire tore through its armor. The cruiser exploded in a brilliant flash, leaving the enemy fleet momentarily stunned. The aliens whispered in awe. They do not panic. They fight like gods, but the battle was far from over. The enemy had more than brute force. They were clever, coordinated, and ruthless. They sent waves of smaller ships trying to pierce the sanctuary's shields, hoping to hit the vulnerable construction zones. One wave made it past the first shield and struck a repair platform. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and debris tumbled through the void. Repair drones now. Move, Lyra ordered. Within minutes, the platform was patched. Automated repair bots replacing broken panels and rerouting power. Not a single platform fell. Meanwhile, in the heart of the sanctuary, alien engineers clutched each other in fear. They had never experienced this. Their fleets, their strongest ships, had been broken by enemies before. But humans? Humans turned defense into offense, fear into strength. The battle raged for hours. Explosions painted the void with fire and light. Enemy ships tried to retreat, regroup, but humans pursued them relentlessly. Yet Commander Lyra was careful. She knew the sanctuary itself could not be risked. Every attack was precise, calculated to protect the home they were building. Then the unexpected happened. A massive enemy warship, larger than any humans had faced before, jumped into orbit. Its engines glowed red, weapons charged, and its presence made every sensor alarm scream. The aliens froze, terrified. It will destroy everything. Lyra did not flinch. We do not panic, she said. We fight, full firepower, protect the sanctuary at all costs. The warship fired a massive plasma beam. Shields flared as energy collided with energy. Sparks flew across the observation windows and every ship felt the tremor of raw power. But humans had prepared for this. Countermeasures deployed instantly. Energy pulses deflected the beam, decoy drones scattered, and human plasma cannons fired in perfect synchrony. For a moment, silence fell over the sanctuary. The massive enemy ship had been slowed, crippled, and forced to retreat. But its presence was a reminder. The enemy was cunning and the war was far from over. The aliens, their voices trembling, finally spoke. Humans, your people, how can you fight like this? Even when death comes close, you never falter. Commander Lyra turned to her crew. We fight because we must. We fight because we protect. That is what humans do. Remember that. Even as the enemy fleet retreated beyond sensor range, the sanctuary trembled. Not from damage, but from anticipation. They had survived today, but tomorrow could bring more, stronger attacks. Yet one truth had become clear to the aliens. Humans were not like any other species in the galaxy. They did not fear. They did not surrender. They did not run. And they would defend what they built, even against impossible odds. The first clash had ended. The sanctuary still stood, shining brightly in orbit. But the shadow of the enemy fleet loomed ever larger. And in the dark silence of space, Commander Lyra knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. The sanctuary floated in orbit like a shining fortress. Repairs were ongoing, shields flickered with energy, and humans moved with quiet precision, preparing for the next attack. The aliens, still trembling from the first clash, stared at the humans in awe and fear. They fight. They do not rest. They do not panic, whispered one alien engineer. Commander Lyra stood on the bridge of the Aurora, watching the stars. Her eyes scanned the void, every sensor reading etched into her mind. The enemy fleet had retreated, but she knew it was only temporary. They would return, stronger, smarter, and more deadly. Dr. Han approached her, his voice low. Commander, the aliens are asking why you fight like this. They do not understand humans. Lyra's jaw tightened. Then they will learn. We fight because it is our nature. We protect, we endure, and we do not surrender. That is what humanity does. The aliens had begun to realize the truth. They were survivors, yes, but humans were something else entirely. Calm under pressure, decisive in action, and ruthless when necessary. They didn't just react, they anticipated, outplanned, and outperformed. Days passed. Sensors detected minor enemy probes and patrols testing the sanctuary's defenses. Every time humans responded instantly, warships moved in perfect formations. Energy shields flared and enemy ships were destroyed before they could approach the sanctuary's vital sections. Then the real test came. A massive enemy fleet jumped into the system. Hundreds of ships, larger and deadlier than before, approached the sanctuary with the intention to destroy. Their energy signatures lit up the sensors like a swarm of fireflies, and alarms screamed throughout the sanctuary. Prepare for engagement, Lyra ordered. Shields at maximum, weapons charged. We fight as one. The aliens watched as humans coordinated with precision. Warships moved like living machines, forming layers of defense around the sanctuary. Smaller ships acted as decoys, leading enemy vessels into traps. Plasma cannons, laser turrets, and missile batteries fired in perfect synchrony. Every attack was met with a calculated counter. One enemy strike broke through the outer shields, targeting a newly constructed dome. Sparks flew as energy beams ripped through the metal, and the aliens screamed in terror. But humans reacted instantly. Repair drones activated, rebuilding the damage within minutes. The shield regenerated and the enemy attack was wasted. This is impossible, an alien whispered. Even when hit, they recover and strike back. Lyra's voice came over the comms. Do not fear. Stay inside the sanctuary. We control this fight. The battle raged for hours. Enemy ships tried to flank the humans, using numbers and speed to their advantage. But humans anticipated every move. Each ambush was countered. Each trap was turned against the attackers. One by one, enemy vessels fell, their firepower no match for Earth's combination of strategy and technology. Amid the chaos, Lyra saw an enemy battleship charging its main weapon, aiming directly at the sanctuary. Its energy glow pulsed ominously, promising destruction. Humans acted quickly. Decoy drones distracted the ship, while concentrated fire from human plasma cannons struck its weak points. The weapon misfired, causing a chain reaction that destroyed the ship in a massive explosion. The aliens gasped, their voices trembling. Your people, they do not fear death. They destroy what others cannot stop. Lyra turned to her officers. Remember this. Humanity does not retreat. Humanity does not surrender. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is our resolve. The enemy fleet began to retreat, damaged and demoralized. But Lyra knew this was not the end. The shadow of their fleet would always loom, waiting for a moment of weakness. Humans, however, would never give them that chance. The sanctuary, though scarred from battle, remained intact. Shields hummed with renewed energy. Repair platforms moved tirelessly, and humans maintained perfect vigilance. The aliens finally began to see the truth. Their survival was no longer just a matter of luck or chance. It depended on humans, and humans did not fail. At night, when the battle subsided, an alien envoy floated near the observation window. Your people, they fight like gods, yet they do not boast. They do not demand reward. Why? Lyra's voice was calm, almost gentle. Because power without purpose is meaningless. We fight to protect. We fight to endure. That is all. The aliens were silent, humbled. They had witnessed humans at their greatest, calm, precise, and unstoppable. And in that silence, they understood a new truth. Humans were not just strong. They were a force no enemy could underestimate. As the enemy fleet disappeared into the darkness of space, Lyra turned her gaze forward. The sanctuary would hold. Repairs would continue, and humans would be ready for whatever came next, because humanity's resolve was unbreakable.
The alien sanctuary floated in orbit, shining like a beacon of hope in the dark void. Construction was nearly complete. Massive domes gleamed under the energy shields, repair platforms hummed tirelessly, and human warships patrolled in perfect formations around the perimeter. The aliens were finally beginning to feel safe. But safety in space was always an illusion. Sensors erupted with alarms. The enemy fleet had returned, larger than before, their dark ships filling the scanner grids like a swarm of predators. Hundreds of vessels moved in unison, their weapons glowing red and ready to fire. Every human officer and alien observer on the sanctuary froze for a heartbeat. Prepare for engagement. Shields maximum. Weapons ready. No ship falls today. Commander Lyra shouted, her voice cutting through the tension like steel. The aliens whispered among themselves. They never hesitate, even when faced with death. And humans did not hesitate. The enemy fleet attacked immediately, lasers and plasma beams slicing through the void. One small alien cruiser exploded within seconds. The aliens screamed, but humans remained calm. Every warship in Lyra's fleet moved like a living organism, blocking fire, protecting the sanctuary and counterattacking with precision. Deploy decoy drones. Lure them into our trap. Lyra commanded. Human drones zipped through space, drawing enemy fire while plasma cannons targeted the attackers' weak points. Ships that had seemed invincible moments ago were torn apart by precise volleys of coordinated fire. Still, the enemy was relentless. A massive battleship jumped into range, its energy cannons charging. Its target, the sanctuary itself. Main weapon locked on, a sensor officer shouted. Shield won't hold for long. Then we don't let it fire, Lyra replied. All firepower, focus on that ship. Hundreds of human warships shifted into formation. Missiles streaked through space, lasers fired in perfect rhythm, and the battleship's weapon misfired, causing a massive explosion that rocked the surrounding enemy fleet. Another strike, another destroyed ship. Humans were unyielding. Aliens stared in awe, their voices trembling. Even when the enemy is stronger, they dominate, they protect us. The enemy fleet tried to flank, sending waves of smaller ships to bypass human defenses and strike the sanctuary directly. But humans anticipated every move. Layers of shields absorbed damage, repair drones moved instantly to damaged platforms, and warships cut off every flanking path. Humanity, they do not fear, even when facing impossible odds, muttered one alien engineer. Then the enemy attempted a final attack, a massive energy weapon aimed at the sanctuary's core. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and panic began to rise among the aliens. Hold your positions. Lyra barked. Do not panic. Fire everything. Warships unleashed torrents of plasma, missiles, and lasers. Energy shields flared, absorbing the brunt of the blast. Repair drones raced along the surface, restoring damaged panels as explosions shook the orbit. Slowly, methodically, humans destroyed the weapon before it could fully charge, leaving the enemy fleet stunned. The aliens gasped in disbelief. Your people, they make the impossible, possible. Lyra's gaze swept over her fleet. This is what happens when you fight with purpose. This is what happens when you refuse to lose. The enemy fleet, battered and demoralized, began to retreat. Their commanders had realized something humans had proven again and again. Raw power was meaningless against strategy, speed, and will. Humans had turned defense into offense, and the sanctuary was safe, for now. The sanctuary itself was scarred but intact. Shields hummed steadily, repair platforms moved without pause, and humans remained vigilant. Aliens floated among the domes, staring at the humans with awe and newfound respect. Your people, they are more than warriors, they are gods, one alien finally whispered. Lyra shook her head, a faint smile on her lips. We are not gods. We are humans. We protect. We endure. And we fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. That is all. Even as the enemy retreated into the darkness of space, humans did not celebrate. They prepared for the next battle, repaired the sanctuary, and trained the aliens to use the defensive systems. Every sensor was monitored, every weapon charged, every drone ready. The aliens began to understand that survival in the galaxy did not depend on strength alone. It depended on humans, their courage, their intelligence, their determination. And the humans knew one thing for certain: the sanctuary would hold. No enemy, no matter how powerful, would take it while they were there. The first major battle had ended, but the war was far from over. The shadows of the galaxy still loomed, waiting for a moment of weakness. But humanity's resolve was unbreakable. And any who dared threaten their home, or those under their protection, would face the full, unstoppable force of Earth. For the first time, the aliens truly believed it. Humans were not just protectors, they were a force the galaxy could never ignore. The sanctuary floated in orbit, shining like a jewel against the black of space. Repairs were ongoing, but the immediate danger had passed. The enemy fleet had retreated, broken and demoralized. For the first time in weeks, the aliens allowed themselves to breathe. They looked at the humans with awe and gratitude. These were not just warriors, they were protectors, builders, and strategists. They had not only saved the aliens' lives but also forged a home in the void, a sanctuary that no enemy could touch. Commander Lyra stood on the bridge of the Aurora, gazing at the thriving sanctuary below. The humans had worked tirelessly, building defenses, training alien crews, and establishing a lasting base. Her fleet hovered around the perimeter, warships patrolling silently, shields glowing softly against the darkness. The aliens finally spoke openly. "We owe you everything. Our fleets, our people, even our hope, belongs to you now." Lyra shook her head. "You owe us nothing. We fight because it is right. We protect because it is necessary. That is all humans ask." Despite the relief, Lyra remained vigilant. The Shadow fleet might have been gone for now, but in the vast darkness of space, threats always lurked. Humans had learned long ago that preparation was survival. They could celebrate briefly, but they would never let their guard down. The aliens had begun to adapt. Under human guidance, they learned to repair their ships faster, strengthen their shields, and coordinate defenses. They trained alongside human crews, watching and learning the techniques that had saved them again and again. "They are teaching us," whispered one alien. "Not just how to survive, but how to fight, how to endure, how to think like humans." On the sanctuary, humans worked quietly but efficiently. Every damaged platform was repaired, every weapon tested, and every shield strengthened. Even as they built, they prepared for possible threats beyond the shadows. They had proven themselves once, and they would prove it again if necessary. A celebration was held, small and understated. The aliens offered thanks, gifts, and words of admiration, but humans accepted none. They did not seek praise. Their satisfaction came from seeing the sanctuary secure, the aliens safe, and their work complete. Yet even in the calm, there was a whisper of warning. Deep space was vast, and though the sanctuary was safe, other eyes were watching. Humans had made a statement to the galaxy. They protected those who could not defend themselves, and any who threatened that protection would pay a price. The aliens began to see humans not just as saviors but as legends. They told each other stories of the battles, of shields holding against impossible odds, of fleets coordinating with flawless precision, and of humans who never panicked, never fled, and never surrendered. One alien engineer, floating near the observation window, said quietly, "They are more than we imagined, more than any stories, they are unstoppable." Lyra turned her gaze to the stars. "Unstoppable?" she said softly. "No. We are humans. We protect. We endure. And we fight for what is right. That is all." The alien sanctuary became a new beginning. The aliens had a home, a fleet, and guidance from humans. The humans, having built and defended the sanctuary, returned to Earth and other missions, ever vigilant, ever ready. Yet the story was far from over. Somewhere in the distant reaches of space, the enemy fleet plotted. Other threats waited in the shadows. But humanity had sent a clear message. They would not be ignored, they would not be defeated, and they would protect those who could not protect themselves. The aliens understood now that their survival was intertwined with humans, but more than that, they understood the galaxy had underestimated the strength of humanity. A species that built homes in the void, defended them with strategy and courage, and never faltered, even in the face of overwhelming odds. As the humans departed the sanctuary, the aliens watched, humbled and inspired. They whispered among themselves, "The humans, they are more than allies, they are the galaxy's guardians. And somewhere beyond the stars, hidden in the darkness, watchers took note. The humans had built a new home for the weak, defended it with unmatched skill, and proven themselves a force no one could ignore. A new era had begun. The sanctuary was safe. The aliens were alive. And humanity had shown the galaxy why they were not to be underestimated. Commander Lyra looked back at the glowing fortress one last time before jumping into hyperspace. A faint smile crossed her face. We fight, we protect, we endure. Always. The stars stretched before her, endless and vast. Humanity's story was just beginning, and the galaxy would never forget it.